So, welcome. Thanks for coming. So here we are. We're celebrating this little book. I did a little book launch this morning with Graffeg, where Matthew asked me questions, and had I thought about it, I could have done the same this evening because he's there. I've just seen him on the list. But this is the latest in a new set of books, and it's slightly different to the ones that I've done before. So those of you that know me from before, you'll know this lot, the children's book series, and there were 9 of those, and they're a bit smaller. And if you were at the book launch for the last book at Helping Hedgehog Home, you might remember I talked a bit there about folklore and talking about wanting to try some new things, making some new animals as well with a more folklore element. And yeah, so here we are. I actually did it. So I've been doing the animals, like you've got the squirrel here and things, and I've been working a bit more with the folklore thing, which is something that I really love. And it's really nice for me to, I mean, I still love the weasels and baby weasels and Emily and Panda, and you know, they're all there and they're part of my world, and they're not going anywhere. But it's also nice to try a new path as well. And I suppose for me, this path is the one where I've always been at home since I was born, basically, in this sort of I don't know what you call it, this sort of peculiar liminal world of all the different cultures in my family life, you know, the Swedish and the, you know, growing up in Scotland and England, and you know, my grandfather was Indian and my mum was born up in the you know, near Mongolia and things, and I've got all these different cultures and stories. And where I've lived is in the world of nature and the world of folklore. So particularly the ones that spoke to me were the Scandinavian ones. So troll, you know, trees turned into trolls at night, and you know, Tompton is there, all these little nature spirits. To me, they're really real, and they're there, and they're out in nature. And if you're just quiet, you know, quiet enough, you can see them out the corner of your eye. And some people do and some don't. And to me, they're very, very real. I always put porridge out for Tompton at Christmas. And as a child, you know, I would talk to trees and talk to animals, and, you know, I felt at home in nature more than people. And I always kind of have, really. So that world has been very strong for me. And my whole world that I've created, the Celestine and the hair world, it all links into this idea that really there's all these little creatures going about their business, and it's like we almost don't notice, you know, and if we were quiet we would notice, and if we looked closely we would notice. But you know, I like that idea. It's like the borrowers, and, you know, I mean, right back to Winnie the Pooh and all of those kind of things, you know, this other world of little animals. I think I said this at Helping Hedgehog Home as well. I was convinced I should have a tail. You know, I was convinced I was one of these little Hulda kind of troll creatures, and I really should have a tail, and I still think I should. This book in particular, if you look on the spine there, it says winter, and it's focused around the winter solstice. And you know, it's that time of year that we're in now, and which is why this is obviously the perfect time to, you know, publish the book. We're getting into the darkness, you know, it's pitch black out there already. And a lot of us, you know, we have this thing about the dark, and people not liking the darkness and wanting the light and liking the light of summer. And I think, you know, across all cultures, actually, yesterday was Martinmas, which is a European festival. It is a British one, but we don't really celebrate it. About lanterns and light. You've got Diwali next week. You've got the Chinese mooncake festivals. You've got Candlemas in February, you've got Yule, of course, and the solstice. Sweden has Lucia Day in December, all these things where we celebrate the light and wanting that light. And, you know, I think we have an inner desire to keep, to do, you know, hold that light inside us, really. And I think particularly now with everything that's going on, and this year in particular, you know, everything is so uncertain, and kind of holding on to that idea of hope that, you know, spring will come, the light will return. I think that's really, you know, it's something that's very helpful for a lot of us, that such uncertain times, but some things don't change. And this story, it goes through this message of the change from the dark to the light, you know, the turn of the year. And I think one thing for me which is quite strong is the thing of like the earth, you know, I'll read the story to you, but the earth rests and goes to sleep, and it gets cold and there's no flowers and there's no dancing, you know, of the flowers, because the earth's gone to sleep. And I think for us, there's a wisdom in that, you know, we need time ourselves to rest. And, you know, I think learning from nature and the folklore that comes along with nature is really important, because it, you know, we can learn from it. And, you know, these stories around what happens throughout the year and following the turn of the year, it can really help us with seeing what's coming and what's been. And particularly now, you know, we live in this age where everything's really fast moving, and, you know, it's not good to be idle. You know, you're supposed to be go-getting and busy all the time, and head down and work. And we've got, you know, lights and central heating, and you can keep working all night and all day, and it doesn't matter about the seasons. And you know, and I think really we should work with them more. And I've noticed Chris and Ginny are here tonight, and they do Sky Ravenwolf. They make the beautiful leather things, and Chris will talk about how she works, you know, with the daylight, really. And I love that idea that you can work longer in the summer because there's light, and in the winter you have to stop because you can't see. And, you know, perhaps we should try to do that a little bit more. And I think the other thing in particular this year with that was, I think what struck me was how we have our markers in the year. So we have points that tell us where we are, you know. So when you're at school, you have your school terms, you know, and you have half term, and then you have Christmas, and then you have spring term, and you know where you are. And if you have bank holidays, and we all have things in our own lives that mark our year. And one thing I found quite difficult this year with all the lockdowns and things was that I lost my markers. So I always go to Sweden in the summer to see my family, and I couldn't this year. And for me, it was quite a shock that it was autumn, because it couldn't be autumn because I haven't been to Sweden yet. And it's that thing of, you know, doing shows, you know, doing craft and focus. You have these sort of, for me, there are markers in the year. I do this and I do that, birthdays or whatever. And for a lot of us, we've lost those with the lockdown and the virus. And I think that's made it quite difficult. And I think really that sort of nature and folklore could be a way to help us bookmark our years, no matter what else is happening. So when we first went into lockdown, everybody started talking about the birds singing, and they were talking about nature and how wonderful it was that nature had reappeared and things. And I was thinking, well, it's always been there. And, you know, the birds were louder because we could hear them, and the sky was clearer because there weren't airplanes. But nature's always there, you know, and the brambles always ripen, and, you know, on it goes. So I think, you know, using these, the sort of, you know, the turn of the year the folklore, the festivals. It's something I feel would be lovely if we did more of. And I've been trying to encourage people on my Facebook page and things. We do a Sunday ramble, and I kind of, on my calendars, you know, I've started sort of mentioning it, and I've been making this series of animals for each of the points on the old Celtic year, you know, so you've got those sort of 8 markers throughout the year to place where you are. And you know, how could we revive, could we talk a bit more about, you know, Lammas and baking the first loaf of harvest? And I know some of you that are watching do these things already, and I love that, and I learn from some of you as well. There are some of you on here today who know much more than, I'm an amateur at this, you know a lot more. And you know, it's lovely for me to learn about those festivals as well. You know, could we you know, things like Michaelmas, you know, Michaelmas is, you know, St. Michael and the dragon. And I love that story that he tames the dragon. He doesn't kill it, you know, like St. George. And there's a lovely old folk tale about how they use the breath from the fire of the dragon to power their mills, to make their, you know, grind their corn for the bread. And I really like that idea of using that sort of, you know, angry side of things for good. But there's a story about St. Michael and the devil having a fight, and the devil spits on the blackberries, and you shouldn't eat them after Michaelmas because he spat on them. But, you know, there's a wisdom in that about they're turning by then, you know, and they're not so sweet anymore. So I think there's a lot to learn there. I wrote this book originally a few years ago. It was one of those things that just, it's hard to describe. I was joking with a friend this morning saying, what am I going to say? That I just sat down and these words popped out and they made me cry. And I thought, oh, well, that's probably quite good then. She said, yeah, go and say that. So it appeared out of nowhere, this story. It just appeared. And I wrote it as a blog. And so many people started asking if they could print it out, if they could. I was asked if it could be read at funerals, and so, you know, at weddings and at births, and people were reading it to each other, and people asking if they could get prints and cards and things. So I made it into a little story card, and it was phenomenally popular, and it wasn't really for children, but it is fine for children as well. So I had this thing, and when I talked to Graffeg about this series, you know, I thought, well, I need to expand it, and that's when, for a book. So that's when the sort of adding in the time of the season of the year. So the idea is that there'll be 4 books, and winter, spring, summer, and autumn, and they'll have the markers of the year. They'll mention, you know, the spring festivals or the summer ones and what people are doing at that time. But they'll have a story that's sort of self-standing within that. This one's particularly about the earth. I don't think they will all do that in the same way. But yeah, they will link to the folklore and to the nature around them. And I you know, I'm very keen that there's a lot about nature at the moment and naming things. And I think we should do the same for folklore as well. So it's a picture book for everyone. It's for grown-ups, it's for children, it's for anyone. And that's one of my other big things, in a way, is that I studied history of art alongside biochemistry and things. But when you put a picture on the wall in an art gallery, it's for adults, and, you know, children would find it boring. When you put a picture in a book, it's for children. And I think, why should it be? And I think some of the best classic children's books, you know, you can appreciate on another level as an adult. So I'm not, this isn't a children's book, but it's absolutely fine for children, and lots of people are buying it for the children, and that's lovely. And I think it would be a really nice one to read together. And Deb, who's here, read it to her class today, and you know, that's absolutely lovely. But I also think it's for adults, and I've had a lot of adults buying it. Yeah, I like all the old folklore. I like the local ones. There's mention in here of the Mari Lloyd, which is a Welsh tradition. There's mention of wassailing, things like that. So the idea really is, you know, whatever else happens in the world, the light will return. It's going to get dark for a while. But we can cozy up, we can enjoy the dark, we can rest a little bit, and we can take our wisdom from the earth that, you know, we can't bloom all year, we need to rest a little bit, and the light will return. You know, the leaves will come back on the trees, spring will come. No matter what else happens, spring is going to come. And the winter solstice is not that far away. It's only just over a month away. And, you know, for me, that's such a lovely time, because the end of the winter can really drag on a bit. And, you know, by February, you're really getting a bit, oh, come on now, you know. But knowing that the nights are getting lighter already, that's a real kind of comfort, that knowing that the light's coming again. So take yourself into the darkness, travel with the Lightbringers as the seasons turn along. I think I'm going to read it to you now, and then, because there's a couple of things I want to talk about within the book, but I think you need to see it first and hear it first before. So I'll have a little talk about that afterwards, and then there'll be time for questions, and I'll try not to chat too much. Sorry. So we tried this morning with someone else holding up the pictures, but it only shows me, so that kind of doesn't work. So I'm going to see if I can shuffle up and sit sideways so you can see the pictures a little bit. Okay, so it's called the Lightbringers, and I'll turn away so I can see. Look at those end papers, lovely paper to keep us going. Really sorry about that. Right, here we go. The Lightbringers. Now, this book is dedicated to Jenny, who's here. So it says, for all who walk with a quiet heart, but especially for Jenny, a warrior of the light. I met Jenny when I was having a really tough time, and she really helped me through a patch of darkness. She kept saying the tide will turn, and showing me where the light will come again. And I'm eternally grateful to her for that. So this is for all those Jennies out there who are real light bringers in themselves, and for all who walk with a quiet heart, who might see these small creatures there. I might just have to pop the picture up and then hold it back. So hopefully you'll all get a book anyway and see it. Right. The earth breathes. In the summer she breathes out, and the world fills with warmth and light. She laughs and dances, and the flowers spill out from her cloak. Folk feasts on the fruits of summer and make flower crowns. They dance and light bonfires, jumping them for courage. There's a harvest loaf. When the earth has danced and laughed till she is tired, she settles down to sleep. The flowers gather up the light and warmth and hold it in their fruits and seeds. They glow with the warmth of her dancing. Autumn comes and folk gather in the harvest, saying thanks for the gifts of summer. They bake harvest loaves and make ready for the cold to come. Small creatures hide the light away in their burrows and dens. The earth breathes in. She breathes in the light for a warmth as she sleeps. The creatures keep safe, and the last sparks of light. The creatures keep safe the last sparks of light deep underground. She slumbers and dreams of summer and flowers and dancing. While she dreams, her cloak gets cold and flowers of ice crystals grow. Their beauty reminds folk of the summer flowers, but the colour and warmth have gone. She breathes in further, and it becomes dark. We feel like the light will never come back again. The small ones burrow down, guarding the light. She breathes in further and dreams her dreams. The cold bites and the darkness enfolds. But then she shifts in her slumber. There is a pause, the pause between breath in and out, between heartbeats, the still, dark turning point, the solstice, the turn of the year. Folk bring in trees and decorate their hearths. They light candles and Yule logs to remind them of the warmth and light that they long for. The creatures feel the pause and the shift and murmurings of earth's sleep, and so it begins. At the sound of her out-breath, the hare who has guarded the moon full of the silver shining light of the sun calls the small ones to her. All through the darkness, I missed a page. Sorry. All through the darkness, small beings gather up the tiny sparks, almost extinguished, but not quite. They take the embers and gently place them in their seed lanterns, and they start to walk. One by one, they come out and gather together. The Lightbringers, the bearers of spring. And here's the page I thought I'd missed out. I love this. It's just that still point. They find each other in the darkness and they walk. They scurry through the hedges and woodlands. They pass the Mari Lloyd, the riddle horse, on her procession through towns and villages. They pass the wassailers, the tree guardians, singing loud songs and banging their pots and pans in the orchard. Most don't notice the Lightbringers, but those who are quiet of heart, who walk the hedges and honour the earth, might catch a glimpse. You have to look very closely in that photo. As the earth turns in her sleeping, she breathes out the long, slow breath that will warm her and bring the flowers and her laughter. As she turns, as she breathes, the hare keeps calling and they come. In ones and twos, in small groups, they walk and gather. The earth breathes out and the Lightbringers find each other as they follow the call of the hare to spring. Onward they keep walking. When they start to tire and falter, the badger appears to call them on, to remind them they are not alone, that others too are walking with the light. And soon they are gathered in enough numbers that folks start to notice the light returning. The birds start to sing a little earlier. The earth starts to warm as she breathes out. The Lightbringers combine their tiny sparks to light the earth once more as she starts to wake. She smiles at the warmth and dreams of dancing flowers. She smiles snowdrops and crocuses to let us know that she will dance again as the light returns. The light will always return because it is guarded by small beings and they are steadfast in their task. It's quite funny having this absolute silence behind. In the back of the book, there is a double page spread that says Midwinter Customs, and I will talk about that in a second there. So I hope you like the story. It's quite strange doing this via Zoom because normally you're in a room and you can gauge people's reactions and you can hear them and you can see them and people sort of clap and things like that, and it's quite strange doing it here to sort of silence, but I hope you like the book. I just wanted to mention there's at the beginning, it says here, huge gratitude to 3 people, and I just want to mention them. So first of all, One is to Cecilia, who's here listening in today. Hello, Cecilia. Blow you a kiss. That's for proofreading. It's not, Cecilia's not just, I mean, Graffeg have their proofreaders, you know, that go through and check for all the commas and things like that. What Cecilia does is work with me to, she's very helpful at, you know, saying, have you thought about changing those two words around in a sentence? Or like when call to spring. Somebody's on, who's unmuted themselves. I can hear a lot of nose blowing and things.
I've done it, I've sorted it.
Thank you. Yeah, Cecilia's very good at, like, you said, the call to spring, and it's like, will people read that as to spring as in jump or run, or will they read it as spring, and do I put a capital, or do we do this? And she actually told me to switch 2 pages over, which just changed the story completely. And it's little things like that. It's really nice to have somebody to talk to and, you know, say, how does this sound, or do you think it would sound better that way? So thank you, Cecilia. Really, really helpful, not just on grammar, because I'm not very good on grammar, but also just that flow of words that would take me forever to think myself. It's nice to have someone to talk to. The second person is to Tamsin Rosewell, who's been doing the Kenilworth book launch with me. And I was talking to Tamsin about the design of the book, because we were trying to work out how this book should look, as opposed to, I didn't want it to be the same size as the children's books because it's a different series. So we were talking about having it bigger, and we were talking about landscape and all kinds of things. But one thing we were talking about was having a border around, I was wondering about having a border around the pages. And she showed me this beautiful book that had all these tangled leaves and things around it. And we were thinking, wouldn't that be lovely? And you could hide little things in it. But actually the sizing of the pages, that was, it was too much. So we spent a lot of going backwards and forwards and working with Joanna, the designer, as well, to work it out. And what we came up with was this little bit here. So I'm not going to say too much about the individual ones, but there's a reference to the Oak and Holly Kings in there. And those of you who know about such things, you can read up on it, have a look and see what happens. They change throughout the book. And this morning I couldn't really show you. So I've got some bigger, oh gosh, the lights, you can't see them in the light, can you? I've got some slightly bigger ones here to show you the illustrations, and I don't know why they're reflecting somehow, some light from somewhere. I don't know if you can see them very well, but these are the illustrations on each page. They link to the story. So each one in the story, there's you know, a poppy seed head, obviously, and there's ice crystals and moons and brambles, and the leaves change around it as well. So we had quite a conversation of going through the book and thinking, what should we put on each page? And although they're only small in the book, I think they really make the book. I think they're beautiful, and they're an extra something to look at. You have to look quite closely because they are tiny, but there's little animals hidden in there and little tiny hedgehogs and things if you look closely. And she also, at the back of the book, normally I'm in a picture frame on these, and I thought it needed a little wreath as well, so she did me my favorites of harebells and birch leaves to go around my picture there as well. So huge thanks to Tamsin. She's been doing lots to help publicize the book, because she should have been, we were going to do the book launch at Kenilworth and have a big lantern parade through town, and of course we couldn't do that. So we've been doing one online, and there's so many beautiful lanterns been appearing, so thank you for those. We're carrying it on for a few more days. So if any of you haven't done it yet, the idea is that you light a lantern and you post a picture on social media with the hashtag the Lightbringers, and then we can see it. And if you look on my website, there are blogs with ideas for you know, how to make lanterns like these ones, and Tamsin's been treating some as well. So do join in if you haven't already, because it's nice to extend it for a few days, and there's Diwali coming up as well. So the other person to thank is Pam Tom Rowe, who she knows her folklore. She's quite good at her folklore, and there's a group on Facebook about the Mari Lloyd, because there's an exhibition in Chepstow on at the moment, but of course with the lockdown I don't know what's happening. It's full of art and information about the Mari horses, and Pam was part of that, and so I was trying to find if somebody could write authoritatively, as opposed to me going, oh well, there's this big horse that, you know, horse skull, you know, with a white sheet, and you know, so Pam wrote me, oh sorry, somebody's messaging me that they can't get in, and I had to turn my phone on so I could do the Wi-Fi. Pam did me a 2-page spread about midwinter customs, so it talks about the Mari and it talks about wassailing as well, and then there's a link to for kind of Welsh customs and things. There's for St Fagan's Museum, and also a link to Pam's blog as well, so you can have a look at that. I think I need to stop talking. I've been talking for ages. How are we doing? Are we all coping? Is everyone still here? There's a massive amount of chat there. Sarah, are you there somewhere? You're not on my screen anymore. I've got other people up there. I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Have we got any questions?
We have got questions, yes. So from Millie. Millie says, I love the badger. Did he spring forth fully formed, or did he evolve?
He sprung forth fully formed, I think. I made, which badger? The one, there's 2 badgers in here. I'm guessing you mean, yeah, the Imbolc badger. He, this one, he appeared like that, and with his staff, and he just appeared, and he wasn't necessarily for the book. He just came as I made him for Candlemas and Imbolc, really. And I was thinking of like John Bower trolls with all their beautiful big sort of curly coats and things. So he just appeared. I mean, I had been making animals with antlers for quite a while. We had polar lopes and things a few years ago. So he appeared. And then when I was writing the book, I thought, well, because it's spring, it would be good to have the Imbolc badger in there to help encouraging them towards spring. So that's why he's there. Although in the book, he's just the badger, because he might turn out somewhere else. You never know. Yes.
Okay, so Annie says, how long does it take to get from first idea to final beautiful photo illustrations?
It varies. Sometimes I have an image of sometimes have a photo, and then I write the story to match the photo. And sometimes I write the story, and then I take photos, and then I think that won't work. So then I change the story so I can take the photo to match. This has got years worth of photos, and some of the ones are original. I've got something like 40,000 photos on my computer, which I need to sort out. So it can take a very, very, very long time. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of luck. You know how you can set up a photo and you can take it and it's just bang on the first time, or you can take 100 of them and none of them are right, and you have to go back and do them all again. And I'm not a Photoshop person, so I don't do a lot of editing or anything. There's some of these have because of lockdown, I couldn't get some of the animals were in a museum and I couldn't get them. So we had to do a little bit of just trying to darken some of the photos, because I had to take a couple of photos in summer instead of the winter, because the original ones hadn't quite worked. But they take a really long time. Yeah.
Okay. And we've got a couple of questions about music, or sort of a question and a comment. Philippa said, have you thought of setting the Lightbringers to music? And Teresa comments that she can see the Bookshop band doing it, which would be quite awesome.
No, I hadn't thought that.
no, but I'm quite liking that idea.
Yeah, it's quite long. I don't know. Would it be like a ballad? Would you have? I'm imagining a true ballad now with his lute sort of going, you know, singing songs. Yeah, maybe. There is a little, Graffeg have done a little sort of promo video that's got some really nice background music with some stills, which hopefully it was at the launch this morning. That might appear somewhere. But.
Lovely. Rachel asks, do you have a time scale in mind for the other 3 books? And says, thank you for bringing light into this dark year. Thank
you. We actually haven't talked about the others yet. I'm guessing books take forever to do. I mean, publishing a book is Graffeg probably one of the fastest publishers in the world, but it's still a really slow process. So I'm guessing the next one will either be autumn next year or spring the year after, depending which order we do them in. They're seasonal, so they're kind of going to have to come out with the season, I think. Yeah, but we haven't talked about that yet.
How many more questions would you like? We're at 8:15 now, so I've got
doing a couple more.
Okay. Susan says,
people can put thumbs up if they're happy to keep going a little bit, or
Susan says, do you find Scandinavian forests more magical? I think that's a loaded question, given who's asked it.
Is that my cousin by any chance?
It's your cousin, Susan, yes.
I think they have different magic. Do you know what was really lovely was I was missing my Swedish woodlands so much this year. And up near us, there's a place called Trellick Common, and apparently it's quite an ancient Neolithic site up there, but there's some woods up there and they smell of Sweden and they're beautiful. They look like Sweden and they smell of Sweden. And I kept walking up there in the summer just thinking I could pretend that I was there. They have there's a slightly dark side to Swedish woods. I think you can really feel the trolls there. You know, they're a little bit, you know, as a young child, you think I don't want to be here after dark, you know. They have a different magic, but there are, where some of these photos were taken, the beech woods up between here and the Forest of Dean, just near Monmouth, those have got an extraordinary magic to them in another way. I was walking up the Little Doward yesterday and they've got these amazing old beech trees, and they feel alive. I do chat to them as I go past, so they are differently magic. Yeah.
Good answer. So Lindsay says, do you have a favourite image, character or part of the story?
I love the last line. I love the last page. I haven't managed to read that without crying before now, so today's the first time. I did a run through with Sarah and a couple of people the other day, and I think I even cried then. I love the line about the light will always return because it's guarded by small beings. I don't know about image. I think I've worked on them so much that I'm not sure they're okay anymore, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard once you've done something so much, you sort of worry that it's not okay. So I do like that image, I must say. I do like that one. But then I don't have a favourite image, but yeah, there's lots of quite nice ones, isn't there? It's just like, oh. Some of them are quite funny because, you know, obviously you have to do it at different times of year. So this winter one, I had to, there was a bit of freezer help involved because it wasn't quite cold. We didn't have any snow this winter, did we? Well, we didn't here. We didn't have any ice or snow. So I was struggling a bit with the ice ones. But no, I like the last line, but I don't know about the photos.
Okay, excellent. I've got a couple more questions, but depends whether you
yeah, go on, because
okay,
we can people can go, you know, and then we can wave afterwards.
Okay, so sort of a practical question: will the new size of book be permanent? Which I guess you don't know beyond this series.
It will be for these 4. Will be that size. I don't know what happens after that. There's no assumption that there will be more of any books. It's whether any appear and whether Graffeg will publish them and whether they sell, so they want to publish them. So I don't know.
And the sort of PS, did you say you studied biochemistry?
I studied all kinds of strange things. I did forestry, which involved doing lots of biochemistry and botany and things like that. And then I did history of art as well, because I've always had this battle of art and science and that you shouldn't have to choose. So yeah, I used to teach chemistry and felt making and all kinds of ecology and ancient history as well.
The last question that's actually a question, which is probably the hardest question, actually. It looks really, really easy, but it's a difficult question. Do you find writing stories easy?
No.
Okay, it wasn't a difficult question.
No, not at all. I cry quite a lot when I'm writing them. I find them very frustrating and very difficult to do. And I think that's something, I never thought that I was a writer. I've always been quite good at, apparently, you know, my aunt was telling me that I always told stories as a child, but, you know, as a kid, I used to pay my brother to write stories for English at school. 20p a story. He was the one who was good at writing stories, you know, and I was all right at making up stories, but I don't consider myself a writer at all. I mean, I am obviously, but I can't spell very well. I mean, although I've got this big brain and can do chemistry and things like that, I'm not very good at spelling. And I was always kept in at school because I couldn't do grammar, and I don't know what adjectives and adverbs and all of that. I haven't got a clue on any of that stuff. But I think that's something that I wish, I think is hard for children, and I find hard with exams and things, is that, you know, you're told, write a story, you know, on Tuesday at 12 o'clock, you've got 1 hour to sit down and write your creative piece, you know, for your exam. And, you know, life's not like that. So, you know, the next story in this series is in my head, and I've been speaking it in my head for about a year now. I haven't got it finished, but it just comes and round and round and round and round, and then I write bits down and I think that's awful and it won't work. And it takes a lot of playing around with it. So no, I don't find it easy. Sometimes things pop out and I think they're the best ones, and they're kind of my favorites as well, the ones that just do. So most of this just popped out one afternoon. The original blog I just sat and wrote. I don't know where it came from. And Panda, sort of Paper Boat for Panda, just popped out, and Bertram just popped out. The others I just but yeah, I don't find it easy at all. But then I don't find anything I do easy. I don't find felt making easy either. But I think that's what makes you get better, is trying, because it's never good enough. You try to make it better. And if you think it's great, then you never improve.
That's all the questions. There was lots of love in the comments, so you might want to scroll down them in a bit after everybody's. There's loads of love and appreciation for the book. People saying very, very lovely things and clapping via chat, because we couldn't get out loud clapping at this stage.
Thank you. We can, maybe you can unmute and we can do a little bit at the end, have a little cheer or something. Yeah, I can just see somebody saying, don't worry about spelling and grammar, and I don't now. I'm what's nice about being the age that I am now is that I have the confidence to go, I can't spell. Somebody apologized today that they'd misspelt something on Instagram, you know, a post about me, and I hadn't noticed, and I went back to look and couldn't find it. But yeah, thank you for coming, everyone. I hope that was all right. I hope I didn't blab on too much for you. I can't, maybe, yes, so what I was going to say is, if you haven't bought a book yet, then I've got signed copies here on my website. We were slightly overwhelmed, Kenilworth Books and I, with the love for this book, and we had a lot more pre-orders than we thought, and poor old Matthew's been like, can we have more books, please? And so behind me over there is a pile of books, which I'm frantically signing to get off to Kenilworth. So we're catching up. Kenilworth Books, I really want to support because they would have hosted the book launch. So you can get signed copies from there. Tamsin, who works there, is the one who did these little illustrations. So she will do a little doodle as well. You can get them from my website and I can dedicate them. And otherwise, as we said this morning, please support your physical local bookshop, you know, whether that's Waterstones or whether it's an independent one. If they're on your high street, give them a bit of love, because they're struggling, the bookshops at the moment, because, you know, well, in England they're closed. So you know, most of them have got websites, and go direct to their website, they get better sales if you do that. So yeah, I just saw somebody asking about books in there, and yeah, I would love, yeah, do you want to unpin me and we'll put everybody on gallery view? Ooh. And then we can wave, and then what I thought is I will stop the recording and I will, anybody who wants to go home at that point can, and if anybody else wants to stay for another 5 minutes or so you can all have your lanterns behind you maybe, and we can wave at each other and be a bit nosy and have a peer at who's there. And I'm sort of looking at people and waving. I don't want to start saying names because I'll feel a bit mean, but anyway, thank you for coming. If you're just popping in and you want to say goodbye at this moment, then that's fine. Thank you. And otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording now. So thank you. Bye-bye.